No, you do not need to buy a whole Bitcoin. Let's talk about the smallest piece of a Bitcoin, a Satoshi.
Ooh.
Welcome to another episode of Sat Chats Short Stacks. I'm your host, Chris Mashbuyer. I'm here with Stuart, Bitcoin Maxi. Let's talk about a Satoshi, because the price of one Bitcoin right now is $82,000 some odd dollars. Nobody's got that kind of money.
I ain't got no $82,000.
But we hear it all the time. I don't have that kind of money. I can't invest in Bitcoin. Yes, you can.
You can.
Yes, you can, because Satoshis are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, just like pennies are the smallest part of a dollar, and you can buy Satoshis.
Yes. So what is a sat?
Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin. How many sats are in a Bitcoin? 100 million.
100 million.
There's 100 million sats in a Bitcoin. So 21 million Bitcoin, 100 million sats each, 2 point some odd quadrillion sats available. Okay, so don't let the Bitcoin 21 million limited amount scare you. There's more than enough to go around, because we fractionalize Bitcoins down into sats.
Right. Don't look at Bitcoin and say Bitcoin is too expensive. I can't buy a Bitcoin for $82,000. Don't look at the 21 million Bitcoin number and say, man, $21 million isn't enough to live in today's world. How could the whole world operate on 21 million Bitcoin? Think about sats. Think about buying 1,000 sats for $1 right now. Think about a form of global money that operates all the time, anywhere, permission-free, that has not 21 million units, but 2.1 quadrillion units, and compare that to the world's economy being worth $900 trillion.
7 to 900, 700 to 900. We don't know.
There's more than twice as many sats as you need to power the whole daggum thing.
Yeah.
So relax. There's tons of space. Come on in.
Yeah.
Stack some sats.
Yep. All right. So who cares and why?
Yeah,
Why should they? Why should we care about
So
this?
sats are so incredibly important because they enable everyone around the world to join in and participate. You can think about buying $1 worth of Bitcoin, $5 worth of Bitcoin, $50 worth of Bitcoin. You don't have to wait till you have $82,000. You can make like number 27 Adam and buy 9 cents of Bitcoin on Robinhood. Or if you think you're going to go out to the bar with your friends, but you live in Chicago, so it snows, and you don't go, but you knew you were going to spend about $30, you pull out your phone, you buy $30 worth of Bitcoin. What you're really doing is stacking some sats, and you're good to go. That's one reason.
And let's think about what you're saying and how you're saying it, because it would not make sense to say 0.000000001 Bitcoin. People don't talk like that. We don't think in decimals very easily. So, but we do think in whole numbers.
So you're right. That's a really good point. So you could, because we do try to think about Bitcoin in terms of Bitcoin and Bitcoin in terms of Satoshis. You could say to yourself, I'm not going to buy $50 worth of Bitcoin this week. I'm going to buy 60,000 sats this week. Next week, I'm going to buy 60,000 sats. Next week, I'm going to buy 60,000 sats. And you think about how many sats you're going to buy, and not necessarily what the dollar cost of that is, because your goal is not to put $500 into Bitcoin, for example. Your goal is to take your fair share of the network, which is about 250,000 sats per person worldwide, and you're looking to quadruple that and become a satillionaire here with us on the show. I want to stack 1 million sats. This week, I'm stacking 50,000 on my road to becoming a satillionaire.
Just think about that. If we'll talk about this here in just a second, but if there's only 250,000 sats for every person on Earth,
man, woman, and child,
okay, that means that's something like 200 some bucks right now.
$250.
$250, okay, is what it would take to buy your share of the Bitcoin network today.
Yeah.
we recommend going above and beyond that. Why not get 4x that? You know, that's only $800 to $1,000 right now.
Think about,
for $800 to $1,000, you can have 4 times the Bitcoin you need to secure your future. Why would you not do that? Why wouldn't you do it for everyone in your family?
I like that. So I have a wife and 2 kids. Between the 4 of us, I should stack 1 million sats so we each have our share, right? But each time you double each time you get another fair share, you're that much better off. Like, think about being 4 times as wealthy as the regular man in a Bitcoin world. Sounds pretty good. Think about being 8 times as wealthy, 12 times as wealthy, 16 times as wealthy, right? If you have 4 million sats, whoo, right? And what else does it do in terms of Bitcoin? It normalizes those small purchases, right?
Yeah.
So just like Chris said, it's not like, okay, it's 0.00021 Bitcoin for your coffee. It's like, oh yeah, your coffee today is going to be 2,100 sats, sir.
Right.
Whether I did that, I don't even know in my head if I did that decimal correctly.
You did. That was correct.
Because it's so hard to think about, right?
Yeah.
And to an extent, it encourages more spending of Bitcoin. Like, we want to use Bitcoin as a store of wealth, of course. We also want to pay for things in Bitcoin. I mean, if I were using gold and that were my only money, I would save in gold and I would spend in gold. It's fine. So you can save in Bitcoin, you can spend in Bitcoin. And if you're like, oh my God, I don't want to spend my Bitcoin, maybe you might hang on to it. But if it's like, hey, this is 1,000 sats, 2,000 sats, 5,000 sats, and you have 1 million sats, 2,000 sats ain't that much. Yeah, I'll pay 2,000 sats, right? So it does a lot of good things for the way we think about Bitcoin. It does a lot of good things for creating that circular Bitcoin economy, which is a step toward the whole world using Bitcoin.
So let's talk about how we can train ourselves to start thinking in terms of sats. So one thing you can do is stop setting goals for yourself in terms of fractions of a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Say, I want a half a Bitcoin, or I want 50 million sats.
Yeah.
You're saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The 50 million sats to me just feels a little bit more easy to measure incrementally.
Yeah. And quite frankly, like, if my goal were 0.5 Bitcoin, I would reach it and still feel bad because I don't have a whole Bitcoin. And I would feel like I don't have a lot of Bitcoin and that I really need to be careful and try to protect that. But if I have 50 million sats and my daily purchases are in the thousands, I'm chilling, dude. I'm rich.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rich.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a 50 million satillionaire. Shoot, let's go. Right. So I think it does help reframe the abundance aspect of Bitcoin to think in terms of sats.
Mm-hmm.
And also, with the Bitcoin being $82,000 right now, it feels unachievable. But stacking up sats to get 1 million sats, 10 million sats, and eventually 100 million sats, that feels good, doable, abundant, plenty.
Agreed.
So what else do we have in terms of starting to think in sats? Okay, so some options for you would be to use some wallets like Blue Wallet that can show you in sats versus in fractions of a Bitcoin. The Lightning Network, which we love, we use Albi and we use Aqua here on the show. You know, you're sending small amounts of Bitcoin on the Lightning Network, so it's already all done in sats. And if you're stacking your sats each week, start keeping track of that in terms of the sats. Don't think about, oh, I've invested $3,000 in Bitcoin. You know, think about having 3 million sats, right? And then using the Clark Moody dashboard, or maybe even UTX Oracle these days. That's a deep cut to determine what your stack is worth. Because if you keep thinking about how much you invested into Bitcoin, you'll think about having that much, but you really might have more when the value of Bitcoin goes up, right? You'll still be thinking in terms of the dollar, and you got to move over to the sats. And basically just envision a world where sometime in the future, your sats are accepted everywhere and your sats are worth sats. They're worth real world things. They're not worth a certain amount of dollars. You know what I mean? They're worth what they can buy you.
Yep. All right, y'all. So the moral of the story is stop chasing whole coins. Stack sats. That is how you play this game. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Sat Chats Short Stacks. It has been great. Please remember, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. We will see you on the next one.